Hey guys, Adam here with AmericanTrucks.com, and today we're taking a closer look at and installing the Barricade HD winch front bumper with LED lighting, available for the 2013 to 2018 Ram 1500, excluding the Rebel model. You should be checking this out if you're looking for not only front-end protection for your Ram 1500, but if you're looking for an aftermarket bumper that has a more utility and recovery functionality aspect to it. This particular bumper from Barricade is not your basic or entry-level option. It's got some bells and whistles added in and has a lot of room for you to grow in the future without spending all that money up front. Now, what I mean by that is this bumper here, being a winch bumper from Barricade, has a welded-in winch plate inside the front end of the bumper there to hold a 12,500 pound capable winch, and it's of course got the easy access panel cut out of the top so you can access the controls of your winch. It's got the opening cut out there in the front, and of course it's got the 2 additional D-rings mounted at the front there to help with recovery. So lots of opportunity to take advantage of this bumper off-road. Again, it's a little bit more functional than some of the entry-level options out there. Now, of course, the winch is not included in the kit, but you can pick up almost any winch available on the market and it'll fit and work properly with this bumper. So if you think you'll need some recovery opportunities, whether it be for work sites or if you're going off-roading with some friends or even camping, you may want to look at this bumper for that aspect of it. In addition to that, it's also got some fog lights mounted in here. Now, these are LED high power fog lights. The LEDs are super bright, rated at about 6,000 K color temperature, so it's a pure white light, and they're even waterproof. So if you're taking your truck and putting it through the ringer, this guy's going to be waterproof with an IP67 rating. Now, that's going to use a polycarbonate lens. They are, again, bright white lights, so they're going to be really, really bright compared to the factory fog lights if your truck came with one. Of course, you're not going to be swapping those over to the new bumper, but these things will not make you miss the factory lights. Aside from that, the bumper also has a couple of other things I want to point out here. The bar at the front end here is welded to the top of the bumper to help give you some added protection for the upper grille area. It is a full width one-piece bumper, so it wraps around underneath of the headlights, and it's got better ground clearance and better approach angles. Now, compare that to your factory bumper, which we will do later on in the video. It's going to come up higher off the ground at the front end, so you can go over some of those smaller obstacles easier on and off road. Now, in terms of approach angles, what that basically means is the corners of the bumper come up a lot higher than your factory bumper. So if you were to come in contact with some obstacles, it would pass right underneath the bumper and contact your tire before the bumper itself, so you don't have to worry about taking an impact. But if it did, the steel plating's got you covered. This is a 5/32 inch steel plating with a 2-stage epoxy pre-coating and a high-quality black powder coating on top with a textured black finish. That's going to help with corrosion and rust resistance and gives you that stealthy, very aggressive off-road look at the front end. Now, this is a little bit more of a rougher texture than some of the other ones out there. There are some smoother textured black options. I personally like this. I think it'll hide those scratches and dings a little bit better, and I think it looks a lot more rugged. This bumper does have opportunity to add on in the future, aside from just the winch. There's also light bar brackets welded to the inside of this bar up top, so you can mount up to a 40-inch light bar going across the top there. Again, not included in the kit, but the opportunity is there, and you wouldn't need to pick up any separate brackets or do any drilling. The brackets are already welded on for you. In addition to that, you get some cutouts here with some mesh plating there. You could add some fog lights or some spotlights in there if you wanted to, but that's also going to help with airflow at the front end. Finally, the price tag for this guy comes in right around $1,350. It's a little bit more on the premium side, but again, being that utility and recovery functionality here, it's going to be a little bit more inclusive than some of the entry-level options, so the price tag there is warranted. Install 2 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter here. It's really easy to get this guy installed, but it does really require 2 people at least. It's a very heavy front bumper, so you want to have a helping hand on deck. I'm also going to be using a couple of floor jacks to help get the process done a little bit easier. And again, the more people you have on hand, the easier it's going to be for you to work the wrench and hold the bumper in place. Now, in terms of wiring, the lighting here is pre-installed in the bumper and they are plug and play, but the harness is included in the kit that you will have to run to the dashboard. What that basically involves is you hooking up the wiring harness to the battery for power and then running the actual switch it includes through the firewall underneath the driver's side dash and mounting it where you want. It's a very easy process. I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. The entire process here will take maybe about 3 hours from start to finish. I'll show you what it looks like, so let's get started. Tools used in the install include an impact gun, a couple of ratchets, extension, 8, 10, 13, 18, and 19 millimeter deep sockets. Recommended would be a 10 millimeter swivel socket, Phillips head screwdriver, and an 18 millimeter wrench. First step of the uninstall here is to go into your wheel wells. You can start on the driver or passenger. I'm on the passenger side. I'm gonna grab my Phillips head screwdriver, a small one, and remove the 3 Phillips head screws in our wheel well. Now, some models may have 7 or 8 millimeter bolts instead, but either way, you're gonna get these guys off and out of the way. With these guys out of the way, we can peel back our wheel well liner to expose the bolts holding the bumper to the fender. gonna fold that behind the tire to gain access to the back end. Now the next step is extremely difficult to see, but there's basically a bolt on this bracket here. You can see the top of the stud, bolt facing up, and then there's one directly here facing down. Now, you can get a ratchet and socket in there. There's just enough room for me to get my impact gun in though, and that's what we're gonna do here. But you can grab your 10mm socket, whether it be with a ratchet or an impact like this. I'm using a swivel socket, get these guys off. All right, so that's the one facing up like that. Now we can tackle the one facing down. All right, we got that loosened up there. That one's tucked in this corner here. Just like that, facing down. Now this comes off. All right, so now you can repeat this exact same process on the other side. All right, so we have our truck up in the air. If you're working in your driveway, of course, you're just gonna crawl up under the front end there. We're gonna unplug the master harness for our fog lights. Now, if your vehicle doesn't have fog lights, you may not have this harness, but we do. So we're basically just gonna pinch this guy and disconnect. It's there on our driver's side. So now I'm showing you guys on the passenger side how to remove the bumper bolts connected to the frame. There are 3 of them to 18mm nuts. For this, I'm gonna use my ratchet, a short extension for a couple of them, and my 18 deep socket. Get those guys off. Once you crack it loose, you can most likely get it off by hand. All right, once you crack that loose, you can get it off by hand, and then repeat that for the 3rd nut directly above this one here, in which case we'll have to take off our extension. All right, repeat that on the other side. So at this point, your bumper's loose. We can pop it off from the front end. You wanna make sure you're cracking both sides loose just like that, carefully pulling it off the truck and setting it aside. All right, not quite done the uninstall just yet. We gotta get our black trim pieces off that were underneath of the bumper. There are 3 of them. 2 are the same, 1 in each corner, and then the middle piece. The ones in the corners have 3 10mm bolts, 1 in each of these little divots there. Grab your 10 socket and extension and get these off. Okay, repeat that same thing for the other side. Now that middle trim piece has 4 bolts, 2 on each corner. Grab your 10 socket and extension and get these 2 guys off on each side. All right, repeat that for the other side. Okay, with this 4th one, the whole thing will come off. All right, there are 4 Christmas tree clips in here. So basically what you're gonna do is pull straight back and disconnect those Christmas tree clips or just plastic. Right there, you can see all 4 of those. They snap right in. Set this guy aside. So we got our factory front bumper off of our 14 Ram, and it's on the ground here next to our Barricade HD winch bumper. I want to take you through some similarities and differences between the two, and I gotta say, from head to toe, as you can see, it's gonna be completely different. The construction is totally different than your factory bumper, which is a lot more susceptible to damage both on and off road, and it hangs down pretty low. The bottom chin splitter there adds just a couple of inches underneath of the bumper, so if you're looking to add ground clearance, an off-road bumper like this is gonna be the way to go. It's not gonna hang down as low. In addition to that, it's also got better approach angles too. The angles at the edges of the bumper, or the corners of the bumper, come up a little bit, as opposed to just being a rounded bumper like your factory one. So you'll have better approach angles, letting your tire contact obstacles before your front bumper does. So it's gonna protect it in that way as well. But aside from that, functionality is the big key here with the winch bumper. This is one of the more utility or recovery-based bumpers in the category. You're gonna be able to put a 12,500 pound capable winch on the winch plate that is pre-welded to the back of the bumper. Again, this is a one-piece, fully welded steel bumper. The steel plating is obviously a lot more durable than your factory bumper. That's a 532nd steel plating. That has a 2-stage epoxy pre-coating with a high quality black powder coating on top, which is a textured black, so it has that textured finish to it, not like some of the other smooth options in the category. And then back to the functionality, aside from the winch plate, you're also gonna be able to protect your upper grille there with the bar welded to the top end. That bar also has brackets welded to the inside for you to put one light bar through the middle there. Now that is an absolutely giant light bar spot, right around 40 inches. So you can add something that isn't included in the kit, but you can add it in the aftermarket if you're looking to add on later on. Now it does come with lighting for the fog light. Those are LED fog lights rated at 6000K color temperature, so it's a pure white light. It's an IP67 waterproof rating as well, sealed in the aluminum housing with a polycarbonate lens. That's gonna be super bright, definitely great for off-road. If you're hitting a camping site or if you're on the work site, you need that extra light at nighttime, those are gonna light up plenty. With that said, that's going to take some wiring. There's a wiring harness included in the kit with a separate switch that you can run to the dashboard. I'll show you guys what that looks like in a little bit here. Aside from that, the only other thing you would want to pick up in the aftermarket world would be a winch. It doesn't come with a winch, but it drops right onto that winch plate, and the cutout on the top is perfect for you to access the controls of your winch, and it obviously comes through the front end there. And then finally, for recovery, D-rings are included to mount on to the D-ring mounts welded to the front end. With all that said, completely different than the factory bumper, which has none of those functionalities with the exception of fog lights, which isn't even the same for every model. Ours just happens to come with fog lights. With all that said, guys, I'm going to show you guys what this process looks like, so let's get started. Next up, you want to install your bracket to your frame. Now, there are two ways to do this. You can either do it the way that I'm doing it, bracket to the frame and then bumper to the brackets, or you can install your brackets to the bumper and then the bumper as one piece to the truck. I'm going to go this route, personal preference though. You're going to set it up on your frame here just like that. Put your bolt through along with a flat washer. On the back side, follow it up with a flat washer, lock washer, and a nut. Okay, you're gonna do that in all four corners. Now they are side specific, so you wanna make sure you're grabbing the passenger bracket for the passenger side and the driver for the driver's side. Once you have all three of these bolts in, grab your 18 deep socket and 18 wrench and tighten these down. Repeat on the other side. With the helping hand of a friend, prop that bumper up, line up the holes, and put the bolts through the brackets underneath. All right, repeat that on the other side. So we got the truck up in the air for a better view here, but you can still keep doing this on the ground. You're gonna put that third bolt through, which is in the middle, followed up with a washer and nut on the back side, of course. Okay, like I said, make sure the bolts are on both sides, so repeat on the other side. Grab your 18 socket and wrench and tighten these guys down. All right, for this bottom one, I'm going to use a swivel socket as well, just to make it a little easier on the angle. So we're done with the bumper install portion of the video, but we do have to do some wiring for those fog lights that are pre-installed to the bumper. It does come with a new harness along with a switch that you'll operate from the driver's seat, making it really easy to click them on and off. But to do that, what you're gonna have to do is hook up some positive and negative wires to your battery, so it'll hook up to the terminals there. And then we're gonna run the switch through our firewall underneath of the driver's side dash, and we'll pull the switch up upward toward the steering wheel so you guys can access it while you're driving. And that harness there is gonna run straight through this firewall hole. Now there's a rubber grommet there. You should be able to squeeze it right past the grommet. If you're having trouble with that, you could always cut a little hole in it and just run the wire straight through, but you should be able to get right past it. From there, it'll run to the dash. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, but first I wanna hook the positive and negative terminals up to the battery. So let's do that first. I'm gonna open this guy up here to expose it. I'm gonna start on our negative side, grab a ratchet and a 13mm socket, and we're gonna loosen up that nut and connect them. Now you don't even have to take the whole thing off. You're gonna take this section of the wiring here. It's got this little hook on it. You're gonna connect that to the stud underneath of that nut, and then you're gonna tighten that nut down. All right, so that's gonna ensure that it's got a good connection to the ground. Now you're gonna do the same thing for the red wiring for the positive. Now these are the fog light harnesses. I'm just gonna drop those guys straight down the engine bay, which will go straight toward the actual fog lights themselves, and that'll give us quick access to that. We can deal with that underneath of the vehicle in just a little bit. We have a ton of excess wiring here. That's gonna help run this to the dashboard. Here's the switch. So I'm gonna push the switch through that grommet. We'll pull it out from underneath the cabin. Now there is one more set of the positive and negative wires. Again, a ton of wiring, but that's good. It gives you a lot of room to work with. Now these, we might run these to the battery as well. I wanna first run the switch to the cabin just to see if we have enough wiring to come back to the battery. If not, we'll have to find another 12-volt ignition source, but we'll come back to this in just a second. For now, I'm gonna leave it here. Let's run the switch straight through. All right, so I got that switch through. I'm just gonna feed a little bit extra wire there. Now when we head under the driver's side dash, we should see that guy dangling there and we can just pull it up. So we're underneath the driver's side dash and you can see the switch right here. I fed enough through that it kind of dropped down to the floor. So what I'm gonna do here is just pull a little bit more wiring straight through. Now you can mount this switch wherever you'd like. My best suggestion is just right here next to the steering wheel. You have enough wire that'll go straight back to the engine bay, so you have enough slack on the other side and it's easily accessible from the driver's seat. At that point, what you'll do is just peel off the 3M tape backing. You might need a knife to get that guy off. All right, so you just peel off that 3M tape backing and stick it on to a clean surface. All right, put pressure there, and that's gonna be good. Now that we have that taken care of, we have enough wire slack under the hood, we can go back to the battery and finish up with the positive and negative wires. Now that we've run that switch to the dashboard, we've determined that we have enough wire slack to keep these guys at the battery, so we don't have to find another 12-volt ignition source. So we're gonna do the exact same thing we just did a second ago. All right, so once you have both of those guys connected to both terminals, it's a good idea to do some cable management. How you do that is completely personal preference. So you guys wanna grab some zip ties if you want, or if you just wanna tuck these wires up somewhere, that's completely up to you. But from there, we can head back under the truck and connect our fog lights. Now we're under the truck again. We're gonna pull that harness straight through. Here's the fog light harness that'll connect to the actual fog light itself. What I'm gonna do is feed the longer wire over to our passenger side, over the frame, pull it back down. Then you're gonna grab the harness on the back end of the fog light and connect them. All right, and you can tuck up that wire. Again, if you wanna use zip ties, you absolutely can, and then repeat on the other side. All right, once you have that connected, you're good to go. Now the very last step I want to talk about here is your wheel well liners. Now because this bumper here from Barricade has better approach angles, it comes up a lot higher off the ground compared to factory, your wheel well liners now are seen at the bottom here. It hangs down lower. What I'd recommend doing is taking maybe a box cutter and a Sharpie, mark a line parallel to the edge of the bumper there, and then trim the excess off. That's way it's not something that sticks out like a sore thumb. Now, obviously that's personal preference. You could even go as far as removing the entire liner itself, but I'd recommend trimming it. Now, because our bumper is just gonna be going back to stock for video purposes here, we're gonna be just tucking back the liner so you guys get a good idea of what it would look like if you did trim it, but that's something that I would recommend doing. Very last step, of course, would be to attach your D-rings. These are 3/4 inch galvanized D-rings, and of course, you're just gonna unscrew the pin there, hook them onto the welded on mounting plate, and then tighten them down. Repeat that on the other side. That's gonna wrap up my review and install for the Barricade HD winch front bumper with LED lighting, available for the 13 to 18 Ram 1500, excluding Rebel models. Get yours right here at AmericanTrucks.com.